We are going to start 6 lines from the bottom, the wide lines on page Tzadik Zayin, not from the bottom, from the bottom of the top section.
Line starting.
Ubevo hashpos ha-chochmah bebinah. The truth is, all along, it was clear, the implication, that the principle of Chochmah is this direct cognizance. It's not even understanding and knowledge. It is the presence of the Ein Sof in the Chochmah. And then that translates on the bottom level of that. That translates in what we call hanachat sichlit. And here's where we start. Now we have it inside. We have pointed this out way before.
Just to unpack that a moment, this translates into hanachat sichlit.
Hanachat sichlit.
Translates kind of lower down in the seichel.
That's right.
Okay.
And this is, we're going to discuss this a little bit. Okay, we're starting 6 lines from the bottom of the top section. The line begins with ubevo hashpos ha-chochmah bebinah. When the hashpah of Chochmah comes into Binah. The very wording of that, ubevo hashpos ha-chochmah bebinah, it appears to be understood. Binah does not, on its own, take things out of Chochmah. Binah receives from Chochmah what's called the hashpos ha-chochmah. Chochmah has an element, even though this is completely beyond Hasoga, but there is an element in Chochmah, it's called the Nekudas HaSkola and so forth. There is the element in Chochmah, it's called hashpos ha-chochmah. That which Chochmah is mashpia, that which Chochmah expresses.
And we learned just now that the person needs to go back to Nekudas HaChochmah, so that's not, I mean, it's for sure a sichlit element that's going back to the Nekudas HaChochmah.
He goes back to Nekudas HaChochmah as the Nekudas HaChochmah has been given to him. He does not identify it on his own. You have to understand the significance of it.
The Yigia is only in Chochmah?
No. Yigia is in Buket, Yigia is in Binah.
So if he's Misyageh, then he's searching for the Chochmah, not Hashpah.
No. He has the hashpos ha-chochmah. Binah is Misyageh to relate to it, to absorb it. For Binah, this is a whole Yigia. I want we should understand ubevo hashpos ha-chochmah bebinah, when the hashpah of Chochmah bebinah. Why is there such a thing? Why isn't Chochmah sitting on its own laurel, so to speak? What is the key? Why is it mashpia? What does hashpos ha-chochmah represent? This is a principle that we must understand. This entire phenomenon, this entire structure, entire process, this is a divine creation. where God created it in order to, as part of the creation of the world. And this was all created in order to be mashpia into the world. Each one of these madrigas has as its purpose to affect that which is below it. Just as a point of reference, Chochmah is called mayim, water. And then it says it, but what is the nature of water? Mayim yerdi mimokim goveya l'mokim nomuch. The nature of water is that they would tend to descend from a high place. It doesn't want to stay up there. It wants to descend mokim nomuch. This principle that mayim is yodim mokim noveya mokim nomuch, so to speak, the secret of that principle is because mayim wants to have its input effect on the lowest level. In fact, where does mayim have its greatest impact? On the earth. This is where its effect, its power is shown most. It brings out it makes the earth grow, produce. And the same is true in Chochmah. And this is why Chochmah is mashpia into Binah.
And Binah is very active, even though it's the recipient.
Yes. Binah is active in receiving what is given. It appreciates what is given, and it wants to acclimate it.
That's the avoider, that's the yagia
That's the gear.
of Binah.
That's right. So when the hashpoas HaChochmah comes into Binah, what aspect, in what form, so to speak, does the Chochmah come into Binah, be mashpia to the Binah? Nikras hashpoas HaChochmah, at that point, the hashpoah of the Chochmah is called AYIN. That which Chochmah can bestow and give and present to Binah is called AYIN. V'hainu, what is this referred to, so to speak, in identifying the various levels? Bechinas ha'hanocha sichlis. The bechina that's called hanocha sichlis, an intelligent conclusion, an intelligent cognizance, called hanocha sichlis. Hanocha sichlis, yeah.
Just ask on a definition of a word. You said intelligent conclusion, intelligent cognizance. What's the trying to understand, because it's used a lot and I don't get the gist of the word.
Because when I say the word conclusion, intelligent conclusion, it seems to be implying that there was a whole process to create it, but there wasn't. There's only the conclusion element. There was no process. This is something which is given by Chochmah.
What's the meaning of cognizance?
Cognizant, it recognizes the Chochmah element.
I thought cognizance means like a piece, something. No, what?
Cognizance means I recognize you. Are you part? Do I get a piece of you? I recognize you.
Cognizance means a recognition.
Yeah, the word cognizance means recognize.
No.
It's called hanachat sichlis. It's important to understand, even though hanachat sichlis, even though it's very difficult for us to really define this hanachat sichlis. Everyone has hanachat sichlis. Everyone has a certain principles, a sort of preconceived ideas, which gives the person a sense of the reality in which he operates, in which he lives. This hanachat sichlis should not be misinterpreted to mean that the person chooses to stop at this point. Okay, here's where I stop. This is how I define my world. The hanachat sichlis is not defined by Binah. Hanachat sichlis is something which is drawn from Chochmah, and Chochmah is mamash the emes eliki. Except that this is called hashpoas HaChochmah. Hashpoas means this is what Chochmah is able to bestow and to give out of itself to Binah. Why is it able to give out? This is so to speak amitis himotzi. That cannot be given out. He's telling you that there is such a thing. This is the chitzonis. All that Chochmah can tell Binah is you know that there is such a thing. And when Binah hears this message that such a reality as Yeshua Amiti exists, that puts Binah at ease. I don't have to go any further.
Really, that's the full import, that this exists.
Yes.
It's not calibrated or
No, that's it.
defined
This
for
hanachat sichlis. It makes him perfectly calm, perfectly at ease. And this is accepted in the form of hanachat sichlis. In other words, hanachat sichlis, what I'm trying to point out, hanachat sichlis is not created by Binah in order to make itself feel good. Hanachat sichlis is that which is bestowed to it.
And it's not even in terms that Binah can really relate to. Not at all.
But it cannot decipher it.
Yeah.
But it has it. It can accept it.
It does relate a little bit.
It accepts it. The Chochmah is telling him there is such a thing as such a truth. There is such a Yashamiti. This is what Binah. This is Hashpoz HaChochmah of Binah. Because when Binah opens up its eyes and looks at this world, it sees a constantly changing world. There's nothing real to it. Here it's day, here it's night. Here is summer, here is winter. What is going on? So Chochmah tells him, all of that is part of a plan. and it all falls into a divine plan. Don't worry about it. It all represents. It all is coming, and it represents a yesh hamiti. In order to present a yesh hamiti on the worldly level, you have to have all of these variations. But it's all basically conglomerated, coordinated to relate to that yesh hamiti. And Binah at this point is perfectly satisfied. This is a real world. It's fine. This is hanachat sichlis. He finds peace within his intelligent view of the world.
Is that why when a scientist
No,
one second, I want to just say it. It's might when they finally have found everything that they could possibly find, they find no other conclusion except that there's a God. Is that because now that they have all these details, now that they have a whole picture, they realize that there could only be Hashem? Is that why? Because
I really don't know. I didn't study them that far.
uh-huh.
So Binah B'Poel doesn't have its own intelligence. It's only totally in Hashpah for Chochmah.
It's all based on Hashpah Chochmah. Absolutely. And the Binah declares independence of Chochmah, it goes down the drain. Yamusa v'lo b'Chochmah. Then it has nothing. It has no source of life. This is the story of the scientists and scientific world. Do you know that the Nazis, the Mashpia, and the communists based their philosophy on science?
Right, so-called science, but there, these kind of one second. There, they did not seem to be questing for the real, or be open to the truth of real Chochmah.
Yeah, not Chochmah, science. Science, the science of the world.
Right, but
you know what science says in the world?
Yeah,
there is nothing.
The process we looked at on the side of Kedusha is that Binah understanding is to a certain extent perplexed or questing for something that will resolve this flux, all the changes that it sees, and therefore is open to receive from Chochmah, no?
Perhaps. I mean, there is that element. The truth is that if Binah starts from that perception, he'll never find satisfaction. Because once you start questioning, there's no end to questioning. The real process is that Chochmah wakes Binah up.
Chochmah says, "Hey, look here."
Hey, look here, exactly. That's why Hashpah Chochmah.
So there is the element where Binah, left to its own devices, will sort of run around.
It's nothing. There's no life in Binah per se. Why should I? What's wrong with sleeping?
What means that they're based on science? What is science that they're based it on? I mean,
race theory, for example, economic science, so-called science.
No, it sounds that there's some kind of morality in science that they're based.
It's my fault, right?
Went there.
It goes back to your speaking about the struggle for life, for existence. That life is always a struggle, instead of that life sustains us. That it's meant. It has an intention. There's an intention to to sustain life, not that we're victims of circumstance.
The biggest enemy of the communists was religion. Why?
Opiate to the masses.
Because the only truth is that which you identify physically. The minute you rise up and you're destroying my physical world. You're destroying the reality of my physical world. Two times 2 equals to 4 is the pinnacle of modern science, which to us doesn't even begin of having seichel. It's the clearest thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's right there. Prove it. The most common expression in the scientific world is prove it. What's prove it means? Exactly. Set it up and let me count them. This is what life is. This is what the Mebash's world is. This is all there is. All right, leave that out of us. So what I wanted to be sure to understand, the hanachat sichlis in Binah. This is a derivative of Chochmah. This is not that Binah sought out its so to speak its moment of comfort. Oh, I can relate to that. No. This is a mashpia of Chochmah. It's a hashpah way beyond what Binah can understand. It's a hashpah of amitis amitzias. The difference between the way it is in the Chochmah and the way it is in the Binah is that in the Chochmah there is the actual amitis amitzias itself. Chochmah does not identify it on its own. The amitis is, as a matter of fact, this is the mitzias of Chochmah. In Binah, this is hanachat. I recognize it. And how does it recognize it? Recognize it because Chochmah presents it, and Chochmah says, "Look, trust me, there is such a thing."
So you're talking on the highest level, but on a regular level, on a human level, the highest, an area that Binah could relate to. Why does it need? It still needs Chochmah?
In order that the area of pursuit, of interest of Binah should be real to the human seichel, it has to come from Chochmah. I'm showing you this all the time. Leave the process, the Binah process, the science process, alone on its own. It comes to a conclusion that human being has evolved from a monkey, and he's so certain of it. He convinces the whole world of it, and he says anybody who does not agree with that is stupid.
But even there, you're still returning to a higher element.
I'm
To
sorry?
understand the table, it needs to understand the table. You can't understand the.
He doesn't even know that there is something to understand. As far as he's concerned, the table is a convenience piece because I needed to put the cup down, so I made a table.
Maybe he's trying to ask, he's satisfied with that. This is the thing.
Not a question he's satisfied. He has been drained, you know what drain means? Drained of anything beyond that. He was told anything beyond that is stupidity. And one thing that a person will not accept is the title of being stupid.
Which tells you something itself.
That much humanity remains.
And this beyond is that trying to relate to this question is something you need in even in the lowest level, in a practical level. This, to
Yes.
understand-
Absolutely. If you're going to sit at a table instead of eating from the floor, it's all based on a chochmah, some kind of human reality.
But it's trying to say, but he's not always. He doesn't need to be always aware of that. He's convenient now in
No. He's always aware of it. It comes in the form of hanachat sichlit. Hashpah is a chochmah.
Does it also give a sense in Binah of which of its ideas are approaching the truth? Not just as that there is a truth, but which of the ideas developed in Binah
Everything
are
that a living Binah is in constant touch of the principle that there is a truth, and when it pursues its research and so forth, it's all based on that. I can give this illustration like that. Time is running away, but everyone wants to be able to, have everything he wants. Give him everything he wants, but send him out to space. Put him into a capsule, let him fly around the earth, the world. And he has everything he wants. What's missing?
Life.
everything?
Huh?
Life.
He can have his ice cream whenever he wants. Chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream. Any kind of everything he wants.
It's cut off from everything.
What did he come off cut off from?
The intention behind the whole thing.
The reality of Chochmah.
The reality of Chochmah means the reality which Chochmah is providing.
That's right, which Chochmah has, which Chochmah was given.
Ein ana ela bedas. The real deal is the chochmah, like we just identified. Yet it seems like there's a great confusion. People are chasing all kinds of other stuff. Why
Why are people chasing other stuff?
Why is it not identified what is key, what is primary, what is secondary? Why is there this sort of, if this is indeed, and we sense the real deal, the real structure, the real process, a hierarchy of value, why do people run out, why do we run after all kinds of other stuff?
We can talk about this for a year and a mitzvah, as expression is.
Yeah.
Why, Rahman, do people commit suicide?
This could be like the capsule guy. He has a complete lack of sense of reality.
He says, suicide will give him his peace.
Yeah, complete torment.
Is that peace? This is the phenomenal misunderstanding.
Right.
Peace
Yeah.
is when you have a peace, not when you have the absence of disturbance, when the absence of life.
Right. There is a yesh amiti. There is a real.
That is something which Binah is given, but Binah has to accept it.
Would you say there's a great rebellion against accepting by Binah? Would that be a fair summary? Chochmah is ever present.
One second. There is not a rebellion against accepting. There is a confusion when it comes to accepting. And the confusion in our time, reaches the point where that everything that you do know, this is something which you concocted on your own. This is not the real truth. Because you wanted to know it, it's wishful thinking, and this is why you know it. This is Maise Sotan. Because the Sotan is also not asleep while the Chochmah is doing. It's not asleep. Yes, there's a battle.
What?
There's a battle.
Battle?
A battle. And in order for Binah to live up to that which Chochmah gives it, he has to consent to resist distraction.
Yeah.
Even hanachat sichlit needs to be supported. In our day, it's not a concluded idea that a human being is superior to an animal. Hanachat sichlit, everything is open to question.
Up for grabs.
Why? Because we have denied the true divine input. And if the world created itself, then it can create itself in all kinds of different forms. This is why Bereshis, what is the very beginning of everything? The Rambam says, there's Motzer Yishain. And if you fail to recognize that, if you fail to be told that, the Rebbe insisted that the school should know nothing. Just there is something beyond my understanding.
Rabbi insisted what?
The prayers.
The moment of silence,
The
that
moment
they
of
should
silence.
acknowledge this
Moment of silence, that's the AYIN.
beyond me.
Beyond the mitzvahs of the world. Anything. He gives some kind of reality to the world. Otherwise, everything goes into question. And when you start questioning, you cannot prove anything. I said, what's the superiority of a human being of an animal? This is the way you want it. This is the male-female rivalry. The male chauvinist. Everything is like that. Everything goes into that category.
Can I ask something that's maybe too off? There's a certain, let's say I tell a story to certain kind of people. Let's say if I tell a story of a tzaddik to certain kind of people, they always leave with that imprint. I don't know if it's true. Always.
Who?
Certain kind
Some
of
people will question a story from a tzaddik.
Every time you tell them a story of a tzaddik or something similar, they always will let you down with that comment. I don't know if it's true. Who knows? Who said it's true?
This is where chinuch comes in. They were mechunach on this line of thought. Question everything. Be skeptical to anything that you're told. And they claim that this is the way we are going to bring wisdom to our children.
Yeah.
What do they in fact bring to the children? They drain them of wisdom. But the children are not even open to identify with wisdom when they see it in front of their eyes.
But how can I counter them? I have a lot in common with this kind of.
You know, I have said many times, even the most sworn scientist who really believes, says that the world evolved on its own and the human being evolved from a monkey. You ask him a point blank question, close your eyes and tell me, you think you came from a monkey? You personally came from a monkey? And he will almost 100% answer, no, I don't think so. There is a certain depth in the human depth that remains.
Coming back to this story of the tzaddik,
So you tell him, look, close your eyes and think, is there depth in the human being beyond being able to make money?
No, but I'm telling him a story about a tzaddik, and he said, who said it's true. So what's the answer to that?
The answer to that is, it depends who you're talking to.
Talking to
One second. Ask him himself. Everything you do is rationalized? Are you capable of doing something that does not make sense? So you are on this low level, you are able to do that. The tzaddik is 1,000 times greater than that.
He doesn't say that the tzaddik is not able to do it. He's questioning if
why should you question? If he's able to, why not? This questioning
comes from, this is what I'm trying to understand.
This questioning from your training, that you were trained to question everything. There's no choice. He was told that the first thing you have to do is question.
It's the person who
is
grew
doubt.
up in your
This is
community,
how this is the raised. This is the chinuch.
It's the person who grew up in his community, though. It's
From person.
What?
a from person
I'm
who grew up
speaking
in
from
his community.
The person grew out in your community, for sure he was exposed to that idea. Don't be so sure. There was some kind of a sour pickle over there.
It's not a person.
Yeah, I like that.
It's the whole culture there. I can say where in Williamsburg.
Wherever the culture is, there was a sour pickle that soured up the whole culture.
They were not exposed to scientists.
Not scientists, they were exposed to their own their own conflict.
Cynicism, skepticism.
If I know what you're talking about, there was a lot of mistreatment. The person is mistreated. He will rebel, and he'll question everything.
This question goes from top down. It's not just from.
That's
It's
right.
not for every time.
What?
No, he doesn't understand that. Whenever you tell them any kind of story, any time they say, "Who said it's true?" Who said
I mean, it's tzaddik, story.
tzaddik, not tzaddik, anything. You tell them a story. I was there. I listened. Who said he's saying the truth? Who's saying he's saying the truth? This is how all was.
Because he was exposed to inaccuracy. That's why there needs to be chinuch. The first place where a child should hear a story from a tzaddik is from his own Rebbe, whom he loves and who knows that his Rebbe loves him.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah, you go ahead.
There's a story that two of these Rebbes, whatevers, met together, and one was telling a story what he heard from his father. So the other Rebbe said, who said it's true? So he said, my father lied. No, your father didn't lie. Whoever told the story to your father, he might lie.
Ein Wort von Baal Shem. Nicht ein Wort von Baal Shem. Ich denke, wir meinen das Wort. The word was a reliable word. That the stories I tell about Baal Shem Tov are not necessarily as the way they happened. They necessarily didn't happen. But so if somebody believes it all exactly, he's a fool. But somebody doesn't believe it is an epicletus. So take your pick.
You have to choose one or the other.
Take your pick.
Be a fool for God.
I believe that it could happen.
All right. Let's get back to Hanoch Sichlis. Okay. The Masha Musag Binah, because that which is comprehended in Binah, who Rag HaChitzoiniyus. This is all the Chitzoiniyus. This, what Binah is able to understand and actually grasp in Hasaga is Chitzoiniyus. And what is the Chitzoiniyus? The Hainu, which is Hasichli Shibinkudas HaSkola. The Nekudas HaSkola, this is part of Chochmah. Nekudas HaSkola, this is where Chochmah comes down. Nekuda is, even though it's a point, but that point, as concise as it is still a point in space, so to speak. There's time and space. One is it goes into space, and time and space, this is a worldly presence. The way it is in Chochmah, in its essence, it's not a worldly presence, it's a Neshama presence. But once it comes in the Kudas HaSkola, and the Kuda means it takes up space, even though it's a minimal space, just a point. It relates to space. It relates to worldly reality. And this Nekudas HaSkola, this is the bridge, so to speak. This is the moment of stepping over from Chochmah into Binah. From Chochmah Elikis, from the Neshama, into world. It's a very fine step over. It's only a Nekuda. The world is only as big as a Nekuda, but it's a world in Nekuda. And because it's a world in Nekuda, and so therefore this Nekuda is comprised of two elements, all in the same Nekuda. The sichli and the hanocha sichlis. The sichli there is very minimal because it takes up only one Nekuda, but it's still a sichli. The hanocha sichlis is the so to speak is the Nekuda of the Nekuda. This is the ruchni of it. The Chochmah. This is what the Rabbi is saying. Binah is able to comprehend only the Chitzonis. What's the Chitzonis? The Chitzonis is the sichli that is contained in the Nekudas HaSkola. It's only a Nekuda. How much sichli can there be? And Nekuda means it has a worldly definition. That's what it is sichli. It's not Amiti Simotzi. Yash Amiti.
It's not even two ingredients.
That is the part which is comprehensible to Binah. It's very minimal. Aval ha'hanocha, but the hanocha part of the Nekudas HaSkola, shezehu, which is bechinas ho'atzmus shebenekudas HaSkola, the atzmus element with Nekudas HaSkola. What's meant atzmus element? Atmas element this is true not because I can explain, I can prove it to you. It is true because of itself. Just Yesh Amiti. It carries the part of Yesh Amiti. That's the Atzmos. Hareze bibchinas ayin legabe habina. This atzman, the hanachat sichlit is in an ayin state from the perspective of Binah. What does that mean?